Hello, this is Luke Browning, and I will be presenting on drugs. The data set that I'm using is about substance use and abuse amongst different age groups and states. Some of the substances that were included are cigarettes, marijuana, cocaine, alcohol, and prescription meds. The data ranges from the years 2002 to 2014. And I decided to ask one question on tobacco, one on marijuana, and one on alcohol. Abstraction is a way to model and understand the world, and this can be done by translating real-world entities into measurable data. For this project, substance use and abuse is abstracted into a list of reports, one from each state per year. These reports include the following properties which are relevant to my project. Year is an integer property which represents what year the report corresponds to. State is a string property which represents the state that this report was created for. And 26 plus, 18 to 25, and 12 to 17. These are reoccurring float and integer values depending on which dictionary they fall under, and they represent the total amounts or percentages of each age group relating to a certain characteristic, which also depends on which dictionary they fall under. And I'll explain this more in the data structure. So there were a couple limitations that I found with this data set. The first being that the range of years 2002 to 2014 is rather small, which this makes it hard to abstract any long-term trends. Secondly, the 26 plus age group is very broad, making it impossible to analyze different generations within that huge group of people. And thirdly, illicit drugs are all grouped together, making it impossible to abstract data relating to a specific illegal drug. So this is a really big data set, and I realized that a map for this whole data set probably wouldn't fit on a screen, so I decided to just show the properties that I used in my questions. So each report contains a dictionary with 5 keys: year, state, totals, rates, and population. Year is an integer value, and state is a string value. Totals is a dictionary containing multiple keys, and the key that I used was tobacco, which in itself is a dictionary containing multiple keys, and within this dictionary I used the key use past month. Use past month is a dictionary containing 3 keys, and the one that I used was 26 plus, which returned an integer value. Rates was also a dictionary containing multiple keys. The first one I used was marijuana, which led to a dictionary containing multiple keys, and I used the key perceptions of risk. Perceptions of risk was a dictionary which contained 3 keys: 26 plus, 18 to 25, and 12 to 17. I used all 3 of these keys, and they all returned float values. Looking back up at the rates dictionary, I also used the key alcohol, which in itself was a dictionary containing multiple keys. I used the key abuse past year and in minors. Abuse past year was a dictionary containing some keys, and I used the key 26 plus, which returned a float value. And in minors was a dictionary containing 2 keys. I used the key abuse, which returned a float value. And population was a dictionary which included 4 keys, and the key that I used was 26 plus, which returned an integer value. The first question I asked was, how does tobacco use among the 26 plus age group compare amongst different regions in the US? I picked 5 states from each region to represent that area, and I created the map that you can see below to show you which states represent each region. Looking at the results on the bar graph, you can see that the South region has the highest percentage of population that have used tobacco products in the past month at close to 30%. This is followed by the Midwest region, then the Northeast, and then the West region. The second question I asked was, how has the overall public view on marijuana changed in Virginia over time? To answer this question, I created a line graph, And looking at the y-axis, it reads percentage of population that perceives great risk in smoking marijuana once a month. The first thing that you notice in the graph is that consistently the age 26 and up group has held a higher perception of risk than the other two groups. The second highest risk has consistently been held by the 12 to 17 group, and the 18 to 25 age group has consistently held the lowest perception of risk of marijuana. And one thing that you notice that all three age groups have in common is the percentage of people who perceive risk in marijuana declined in all three age groups, meaning that the overall public view of marijuana has been becoming more positive in the last few years. The third question I asked was, do high levels of adult alcohol abuse lead to higher levels of minor alcohol abuse? And using a scatter plot to answer this question, to clarify, the x-axis reads percentage of people ages 25 plus having a dependence on or abused alcohol in the past year. And the y-axis reads percentage of the population of minors 12 to 20 years old who have binged alcohol in the past month. To answer the question, it appears as though there's a positive trend, meaning that states with higher percentages of adults abusing alcohol tend to have higher levels of underage kids abusing alcohol, so a solid argument can be made for the answer to be yes. Social impacts. So with question 1, some of the stakeholders and their impacts include tobacco companies, because this data would be useful for marketing purposes. Healthcare providers, so doctors specializing in cancer treatment, radiologists, oncologists, would be likely in higher demand in the higher tobacco using regions. And politicians, being that tobacco is addictive, politicians could consider increasing the sales tax on tobacco products in certain regions, knowing people would be more likely to pay it there. And one potential conflict that could arise with this question is that tobacco companies want tax prices to be low so that people are more likely to buy their products, while some government officials want more tax money to be paid on these products. So with question 2, politicians are a stakeholder, and their impact is that as more states begin to legalize marijuana, this chart would be useful if the topic ever came up in Virginia lawmaking or if it ever came to a public vote. And also illegal marijuana distributors. These people participating in the current sale of marijuana could be both pleased and displeased with these results. A more positive public view likely means more people will use it. However, if the public view becomes so positive that marijuana sale is legalized in Virginia, then they will end up losing out on business. And then finally, with question 3, police forces are a stakeholder. And the impact of them is states in which underage abuse is very high compared to other states may want to rethink their policing of alcohol. Next stakeholder could be Alcoholics Anonymous and other related groups. These groups may want to make a bigger presence and make their help more known in states where abuse is higher. And parents might be likely to rethink their alcohol usage, knowing it could be linked to increasing their child's likelihood of abuse. And a potential conflict could be with a clash of opinions. Some people would argue that the key to reducing underage alcohol abuse is heavier, stricter law enforcement, whereas others would argue that offering help to adults who abuse alcohol would lessen the amount of underage people abusing.